Hi guys, and welcome to the channel where we talk about all things related to cruising over 50 or cruising with mobility concerns. I'm Raquel, and my goal is to help cruisers over 50 cruise safely and confidently and explore the world by sea. Earlier this month, my mom and I boarded Royal Caribbean's Brilliance of the Seas out of New Orleans. I live in Texas, so I did an 8-hour power drive to meet my mom in New Orleans. My brother dropped us off at the port, and the embarkation process was quick and painless. In this video, I'm going to tell you about my very first experience on a Royal Caribbean cruise, focusing on cruising with mobility concerns. If this type of information is interesting or helpful to you, please consider subscribing to the channel to help it grow. And if you like this content, please hit that like button and let us know. Okay, let's get into it. Tip number 1: accessible cabins sell out quickly. More and more people with accessibility needs are cruising, and that is a wonderful thing. However, it does mean that those coveted accessible staterooms are even harder to come by. Just 2 years ago, if I needed an accessible room, booking as late as 6 or 7 months was sufficient. But as of last year, I found out that was not enough lead time, which is why on this cruise, we found ourselves in a regular stateroom. This was our first time traveling with a scooter in a non accessible stateroom, and boy, was it a challenge. Now, I did research and found that the cabin doors on the Brilliance of the Seas are 23 inches wide. The specs on Mom's scooter said the widest point was 22.25 inches. I know that's close, but I thought it would work. I was wrong. So every time Mom wanted to use her scooter, I had to disassemble it to bring it in or out of the cabin. I did notice that some people would leave their scooters parked in the hallway, but that's not supposed to be allowed. Another perk of an accessible cabin is the larger bathroom with mobility aids installed. An accessible cabin will have grab bars and a shower bench to make it safer for cruisers with mobility challenges. The bright side in this was that Brilliance is one of Royal's smaller ships, and Mom can walk short distances, so we were able to leave the cabin sometimes without taking the scooter. So I recommend booking your accessible room 9 months to a year in advance if possible. Tip number 2: request assistance from port staff. If you are someone who does not need a scooter or wheelchair all the time, but think you might have difficulty with the long walk from the port to the ship during the embarkation or debarkation process, you may want to request a wheelchair to use during this time. When you make your cruise reservation online, you can indicate your request at that time. If you use a travel agent, be sure to let them know and they can arrange it for you. Even if you forget to request ahead of time, the hard workers at the port will do their best to accommodate you. Just flag someone down and they will help you. Another instance where requesting port assistance can be useful is if you have rented a scooter to use on board and it is being delivered directly to your stateroom. This way, you can arrive at the port and not worry about the long trek from the port to your room. Don't be surprised if you have to switch wheelchair attendants because, due to port regulations, their attendants can only wheel you to the ship. If you need assistance from the entrance of the ship to your stateroom, another attendant who works for the cruise line will take over and assist you to your room. This is usually a quick and seamless transition. Tip number 3: research the layout of the ship. Did you know that most cruise lines make their cruise ship layouts available online? All you have to do is a Google search for the name of the ship, followed by the words deck plan, and you should be able to easily find this information. My suggestion is to do that even before you book your room so that you can get a cabin in a location that will work best for you. On the Brilliance of the Seas, each main elevator lobby had a map display, which we found very helpful in finding our way around the ship. Tip number 4: request assistance from your room steward. Once on board, you will meet your room steward, whose main responsibility is keeping your room clean and comfortable during your cruise. What you might not know is that they are often able to provide little extras that can be especially useful for older cruisers. Whether you need an extra blanket, a firmer pillow, a mattress topper, or even a fan, your room steward may be able to help. You can also request distilled water for your medical equipment, and in some cases, they can even rearrange the furniture to make your room a little more accessible. Tip number 5: research shore excursions. With more people with mobility issues cruising, there are more accessible shore excursions being offered. In addition, some accessible excursions will require the ability to stand or walk for short periods or to climb in and out of the tour bus, so be sure these are things you can do before booking. My suggestion is to read the reviews and research the excursion before booking to see if their definition of accessible meets your needs. Also, know that wheelchair accessible is not always synonymous with scooter accessible, especially if it's a non collapsible scooter. And check to see if the excursion port requires the use of a tender to reach the shore. Even though the cruise lines have gotten a lot better with making the tender boats accessible, they will sometimes still require stepping from the main ship to the boat, while others allow you to stay in your wheelchair or scooter and simply roll onto the tender boat. Once you know what type of tender is being used, you can plan accordingly. Well, those are my 5 mobility takeaways from my first Royal Caribbean cruise. This ship was beautiful, and in my opinion, it was the perfect size for people with mobility challenges. I do wish that the cabin doors were just a little wider, but just be sure to book an accessible cabin if you need one. Thanks for watching.